everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Bruna and today I'm gonna be showing you guys how to crochet the most used granny square in the crochet community, the Sunburst granny square. This is also super trendy now. A lot of people are using this particular granny square to crochet many things, for cardigans, for jumpers, for bags, for tops. Also, I'm going to be using this particular granny square for some projects here on my channel. That's why I wanted to show you in a separate video so that I can explain in more details and not rush when I'm in that video. So I just wanted to show you better in a separate video, and then when we are doing the actual project, you can always come back to this video if you don't know how to make one. So yeah, that's what we are going to be doing. I'm super excited to share this video with you. And if you enjoy, make sure to leave a massive thumbs up as you always do. Also, don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this one. So let's talk about all the materials that we are going to be using for today's video. So these are all the materials here, starting with the yarn that we are using. So for the first three right here, I'm using the Iggy yarn by Teslan.com. This one is just a scrap yarn that I have at home. This is a brown acrylic yarn. I think it's a little bit smaller than this one's, but I don't mind mixing different yarn weights. But if you want, you can use just the same yarn weight for all of your yarns. Or you can use the scrap yarns in different yarn weights if you don't mind. This one here, it's a super fine baby #1 yarn weight. So if you are wondering, so it is a thin, smaller yarn. I do prefer working with smaller yarn, but remember that you can do this with the #4, with the #5, with the #3. So you can just choose any yarn that you want. For the tools here, I'm going to be using a small pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. This one is a little bit smaller because my yarn is a little bit smaller, a 3mm hook, and last but not least, a tape measure just to measure the square for you, which I'm going to be doing right now. It's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, 4 inches by 4 inches. This is usually the perfect sizing for blankets, for tops, for bags, for any project you wanna do. People usually go for this size here. So that's why I wanted to use this particular yarn, because it would get to the 10 centimeters mark. But remember that if you use a thicker yarn, you will have a bigger square, and if you use a thinner yarn, even thinner than this one here that I'm using, you will have a smaller granny square. So it's gonna be smaller than the 4 inches, the 10 centimeters that I'm doing. All right, so this is everything I wanted to mention here at the beginning. So now we can start with the actual granny square. So the first shade I'm going to be using will be brown, which is the middle of the granny square. So for the beginning here, you can decide if you want to do a magic ring or a chain of 5 and then create a circle. I'm going to be doing a magic ring because I think that looks a little bit nicer right in the middle, but you can actually decide how you want to do it. So I'm going to be doing a magic ring. So go ahead and create your magic ring. And then here we are going to be chaining 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Once you have your chain of 3 and your magic circle ready, we can now start with our double crochets. So the chain 3 does count as a stitch for the entire square. So here for this very first round, we are going to be doing a chain of 3 first, and then 15 double crochets. So we are going to be having 16 stitches for this very first round. Once you have your 16 stitches, counting the chain 3 as a stitch, we are now going to be closing the magic ring. All we have to do now is to go right into the very first chain, right on top of the chain 3, and we are going to be creating a slip stitch. Now we can chain 1, cut the yarn, and fasten off. So here we have the very first round completed. So now we are going to move on into the second round, which is creating the puff stitches. Look at that, so pretty. So get the next shade you are using, and then we are going to be attaching into any stitch going around here our very first round. So first we are going to be creating a slip knot. That's how I attach my yarns in place. I like to attach my yarn after here the fasten off, because then we know exactly how many stitches we need to do, because here it's quite confusing when it gets at the end or at the beginning. So I like to start here after the fasten off, so it's easier for me to count. So I'm going to be choosing this stitch. I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull through both loops. This is a single crochet. So I'm going to be chaining 1. So now we can start with our puff stitches. Into that same stitch where you've created the single crochet and the chain 1, we are going to be wrapping the yarn around the hook, going through that stitch, and we are going to pull up a loop and keeping that loop on the hook. So now we have 3 loops on the hook. So you're going to be doing one more time. So wrap the yarn around the hook, go through that stitch, the same stitch, and then you're going to pull up a loop. Now we have 5 loops on the hook. All you have to do to create the puff stitch is yarn over and pull through all loops together, and then we are going to chain 1 just to close the puff stitch in place. So now let's move on into the next one. So find the next stitch and then wrap the yarn around the hook, go through the next stitch and pull up a loop, keeping all the loops on the hook, and then you're going to be doing that 2 more times. So 2 and 3. So now we have 7 loops on the hook. So 3, 6, 7. And then you're going to yarn over, pull through all loops together, and then you're going to chain 1. So that's how you crochet a puff stitch. So now repeat the same going all the way around. I'm just going to show you this stitch one more time. There we go. So now all we have to do is to repeat the same puff stitch into every stitch that you have here into the very first round. So just keep repeating all the way around and make sure that you have the same amount of double crochets. So you're going to be having 16 puff stitches. So I'm getting here at the end and I have currently 13 puff stitches and I need 16 in total. So I need 14, 15, and 16, so 3 more to complete this round. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be kind of finding little spaces here. I can see that I have 1 stitch here. I'm probably gonna do 1 quite close here to this fasten off, and then the last one here into that last stitch. That's why I prefer starting here than on this side, because then we don't get confused here around this area. So at the end, make sure that you chain 1 to finish this puff stitch, and then we are gonna go right into this stitch here to slip stitch and to finish this round. So you're going to basically skip the single crochet and the chain 1, and you're gonna go right into the very first stitch that you can find, the very first V. And then right into that stitch, we are going to slip stitch both sides together to finish round number 2. So once you have your round number 2 completed, we can now chain 1, cut the yarn and fasten off. So now for round number 3, we are going to be doing 4 double crochets cluster. So here we have 4 double crochets together in one stitch. So I'm going to be getting now the yellow yarn. I'm going to create a slip knot to attach this yarn in place. We are going to be attaching in between the puff stitches, right on top of the chain 1, any chain 1 that you want. I'm going to be doing here. So go through any chain 1 that you want and attach your yarn in place. So now to start with our 4 double crochets cluster, we are going to first chain 2, and then we are going to be creating the very first part of a double crochet. So you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook, you're going to go through that same stitch, and then you're going to pull up a loop. Now you're going to be having 3 loops on the hook, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, keeping that last loop on the hook, and then you're going to be doing this 2 more times for this very first one. So wrap around the hook, go through the stitch, and then pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, keeping the last one on the hook, and then do that 1 more time. Now you should have 4 loops on the hook. All you have to do is to yarn over, pull through all the loops together. So that's a cluster. So now to move on into the next one, we are going to chain 2, and then we are going to be finding the next stitch to work with. So we are going to be working in between all the puff stitches, all the way around. So find the next one, and then start with the puff stitch. So create the first part of a double crochet, yarn over, pull through the very first 2 loops, keeping the last one on the hook. And then you're going to be doing that 3 more times, because we need 4 double crochets for this cluster. There we go. So now you should have the very first loop from the chain, and then 4 more loops on the hook. So 5 loops in total, 5 hooks. And then you go into yarn over and pull through all the loops together. So that's the second cluster completed. And then you go into chain 2, and then move on into the next stitch, the next chain 1 space. Then you're going to be doing the same steps. Then you're going to chain 2 and then move on into the next one. So now we are going to be repeating the same steps all the way around, making sure that we cover all the chain 1 spaces in between the puff stitches. And then I'm going to be doing that, and I'll meet you right here at the end to show you how to attach the 2 sides together. And then to finish this round, we are going to chain 2, and all you have to do now is to find the little stitch that it's right on top of the very first cluster, and then you're going to be attaching with a slip stitch. So if you see here right on top, there is a stitch. Here at the end we also have that stitch. We have the chain and then the stitch right after. So right on top of that stitch, we are going to be slip stitching the sides together, and then we are going to chain 1, cut the yarn and fasten off. Now the last thing we have to do is to create 2 rows of granny squares going around this beautiful flower. If you want, you can keep 1 row only, but because I have something in mind that I want to do, I'm gonna do 2 rows, and probably I'm gonna add more rows after this one, maybe in different colors, using the same shades here but kind of adding more rows. But let's see what I'm gonna do. For now I'm just gonna do 2 rows of granny squares. I'm going to be using this beautiful cream shade here. Oh my god, I'm in love with this yarn here. Look at that. Oh, I think all these shades here together, they are amazing. Look at that. They complement each other so well, so I really love that. So now to create the granny square, we are first going to be creating a slip knot to attach our yarn in place. Make sure that you have the right side of the flower facing you. The wrong side, it's where you have all the yarns here at the back. Find any chain 2 space to start with. You can choose any. I'm going to be doing this one here. And then the first thing you have to do is to attach with a single crochet. We are first going to be starting with the corner of the square. So first we have to chain 2. And then we are going to be creating 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. And then once you have the first 3 stitches, we are going to be chaining 2, and then into the same space we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. This is going to be our very first corner. So that's how it looks like. So now we are going to chain 1 and then move into the next chain 2 space. And then we are going to be creating here 3 double crochets. So we are going to be having the corners and then the groups of 3 double crochets in between the corners. So chain 1 and then repeat the same into the next chain 2 space. And then you're going to be repeating the same into the next chain 2 space. So chain 1 and then repeat the same into the next chain 2 space. Chain 1 and then now you're going to be creating the next corner. So we have 1 here, 3 groups of 3 double crochets and then the next corner. So it's going to be 3 double crochets, a chain of 2 and 3 double crochets. So now we have the next corner completed, and this is how it looks like, the very first side of the granny square. So now to move on into the next side, we have to follow the same steps that we did here. So you're going to chain 1 and then into the next chain 2 space we are going to be creating 3 double crochets. Then you're going to chain 1 and repeat the same into the next 2 chain 2 spaces. There we go. As you can see, it's the same as on this side here. So now you're going to chain 1 and then create the next corner. So 3 double crochets, a chain of 2 and 3 double crochets. And now we have 3 corners completed. So all you have to do now is to keep repeating the same steps until you get to this corner here, the very first one. So here we are going to be creating 3 groups of 3 double crochets. Make sure to chain 1 in between them, and then we are going to be doing another corner and then 3 groups of 3 double crochets on this side. And then once I have this completed, I will be back to show you how to finish this row off. So now all you have to do is to chain 1, and then you're going to be connecting right on top of the chain 2 that we have here. So the single crochet, chain 1, chain 2, right on top of the chain 2 with a slip stitch. So here we have the very first row of the granny square completed. So here you can see a little bit better. So the very first row of the granny square. If you want, you can keep it like this. As I told you, I'm gonna do another row, so it's a little bit bigger. So it's going to be 8.5 centimeters by 8.5 centimeters. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. So the first thing you have to do is to slip stitch until you get to the very first corner here, right on top of the chain 2 space. So I'm doing 1 slip stitch and 2 right on top of the chain 2 space. So now from here we can just follow the granny square pattern and create the next and last row. If you don't know how to do that, I will just explain to you here at the beginning. So first you have to chain 3, and then into that same space we are going to be creating the same corner that we did here. So first we are going to be doing 2 double crochets, and then we are going to chain 2 and 3 double crochets into the same space. So here we are creating the very first corner. There we go. So now from here you can just chain 1, and then every time you find a chain 1 space, you can see we have 4 here, we are going to be creating the little groups of 3 double crochets right on top, and we are going to chain 1 before and after these little groups. So right on top of the chain 1 space, we are doing 3 double crochets. Then chain 1 and repeat into the next 3 spaces. Once you've done that, you're going to chain 1, and then right on top of the chain 2 space, right on top of this corner, we are going to be doing another corner. So it's going to be 3 double crochets, a chain of 2 and 3 double crochets. And that's it. That's how we do the second row. From here you can just repeat the same steps all the way around. So you're going to be doing groups of 3 double crochets on top of the chain 1 spaces. When you get to the corner, you're going to be doing another corner, and then follow the same steps all the way around until you reach the very first corner. So I'm just finishing here with my last double crochet, and then all you have to do is to chain 1, go right on top of the chain 2 at the beginning, and you're going to slip stitch both sides together. So now if you want to keep 2 rows, you can chain 1, cut the yarn and fasten off, or you can keep adding more rows following the same steps as I showed you here. And then once you have the sizing that you want, you can chain 1, cut the yarn and fasten off. So now the last thing we have to do is to weave in all of these yarns at the back of the square. So I'm going to be doing that, and then I will be back to show you how the final granny square looks like. So here we have the Sunburst granny square completed. This one is the one that I've crocheted with you guys, and I also have another one that I did before starting the video, so I could remember how to do it. So I knew what to do because I haven't done one in a long time, and they both turned out amazing. Look at that, they are so pretty. Oh my god, I'm so excited, everyone. I cannot wait to actually use these little grannies to make something that I'm going to be wearing this summertime, because now that it's warmer here in the UK, and when it's warm I get super excited and I just want to make summery projects. So this is going to be one of the summery projects that I have coming up soon. Hopefully I will be able to make not 1 but 2 or even 3 projects using these granny squares. I'm not sure what I want to do, but let's see what I have in mind. I have 2 things already in mind. I'm gonna keep it as a little secret until I post it, because I'm not sure if I want to do that yet. So yeah, that's it for today's video. This is how you crochet a Sunburst granny square. I really hope you guys enjoyed. A lot of you guys have requested me to do one, and here it is. I love how it turned out, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. Also, if you end up making any projects using my tutorial, don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you post any pictures, because I love seeing everything that you guys do using the tutorials here from my channel. So don't forget to tag me so I can show you some love. But yeah, thank you everyone. This is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for sticking out until the end. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave your massive thumbs up as you always do. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to turn on the little notification bell to receive a notification every time I post a new video. So thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you next week for more crochet tutorials. Bye bye.